She was working at her desk when they walked in. Two detectives, badges out, moving through the office like they owned the place. Her co-workers looked up from their computers, watched the detectives approach her cubicle, watched them say her name, Nichole Rice. And in that moment, 15 years of normal mornings and lunch breaks and performance reviews came to an end. Because the secret she'd carried since 2007, the one she'd confessed to friends when she was drunk, the one she'd told her aunt in disturbing detail, was finally catching up. The roommate found stabbed to death, the knife left on the bed, the confessions made at parties, the timeline that placed her at the scene. All of it had been waiting. And now, in front of everyone she worked with, detectives were about to make it official. We have an arrest warrant for your arrest for murder. 15 years is a long time to carry the weight of a death. Long enough to graduate, get married, have a daughter, build a career at a credit union, become someone who processes car loans from an iPad, someone who complains about slow systems and working from home, someone who looks exactly like everyone else in the office. But underneath the mortgage applications and the weekend shifts and the complaints about pajama work days, there's a memory. A night in June 2007, an 18-year-old roommate named Anita Knutson, and a secret that Nichole Rice told to multiple people over the years, always when she was drunk, always in fragments, always with just enough detail to make people wonder if she was confessing or just talking. But confessions told at parties don't hold up in court. And for 15 years, that's exactly what kept Nichole free. Until detectives reopened the case, until they started connecting the pieces, until they realized that the woman working at North Star Community Credit Union knew things about the murder that only the killer could know. Some secrets fade with time. Some people forget what they said when they were drunk. But some confessions are too specific to be ignored, too detailed to be dismissed. And when multiple friends report hearing the same story, when an aunt describes a timeline that matches forensic evidence, when someone knows about a bowl of water left in the bathroom sink to wash a bloody knife, details never released to the public, that's when a cold case becomes an active investigation. That's when detectives start watching, waiting, building a case piece by piece, until they walk into a credit union on a Tuesday morning and take someone away in handcuffs while their co-workers watch in silence, trying to understand how the woman who processed their car loans, who smiled at birthday celebrations, who seemed completely normal, could be connected to a murder that happened 15 years ago. Before the handcuffs click, before co-workers start whispering, before 15 years of carefully maintained normalcy collapses in front of an entire office, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. Because here at Forbidden Visions, every story reveals how secrets don't stay buried forever, how confessions made when drunk become evidence when sober, how 15 years isn't enough time to erase what you told your friends, and how sometimes the person sitting at the desk next to you is carrying weight you can't see until detectives show up and everything changes. June 4th, 2007, Monday afternoon, around 5 p.m., Gordon Knutson pulled into the parking lot of his daughter's apartment building on 4th Street Northwest in Minot, North Dakota. His stomach was tight with worry. Anita hadn't shown up for work at the hotel on Saturday, hadn't called her family on Sunday, both completely out of character for his 18-year-old daughter. Someone responsible, someone who kept in touch, someone who wouldn't just disappear without explanation. Gordon knocked on the apartment door. No answer. Knocked again. Silence. He found the property manager, asked her to unlock the door. But before they could, the maintenance man approached with something disturbing. He'd found a window screen on the ground below Anita's bedroom window. The screen had been cut, deliberately, clean slices through the mesh. Gordon went to the window, looked through the glass, and saw something that would destroy him. His daughter, lying face down on her bed, the mattress soaked dark with blood, a large robe covering her body, like someone had tried to hide what they'd done. The property manager dialed 911 immediately. When officers arrived, they confirmed what Gordon already knew. Anita was dead, stabbed twice in the chest, left face down, a pocket knife with dried blood found nearby on the bed, the kind of knife someone carries for everyday use, not a weapon purchased for violence, just a tool that became something else in the wrong hands. The scene told a story, but not the one it appeared to tell at first glance. The cut window screen seemed to suggest an intruder, someone breaking in from outside, but investigators quickly determined that wasn't the entry point. Blood traces were found where the screen was sliced, meaning it was cut after the murder, not before. Someone staging a scene, creating misdirection. And most importantly, the front door had been locked from the inside. Deadbolt engaged. Chain in place, meaning whoever killed Anita Knutson had walked out and locked the door behind them. With a key, only 2 people had keys to that apartment, Anita and her roommate, Nichole Rice. Detectives turned their attention to Nichole immediately. She told them she'd been at her parents' farm near Velva throughout the weekend. Her father confirmed she was home Saturday evening through Sunday morning. A solid alibi. Except another witness contradicted it. Told police that Nichole was at a club in Velva the night before the murder, staying until early morning, then saying she had to go to Minot to get some clothes. As investigators dug deeper, they found an 8-hour window Nichole couldn't account for. 8 hours where her story shifted, changed, adjusted with each interview. And something else stood out: Nichole's demeanor. When brought back to the apartment after the scene was cleared, she seemed more concerned about a missing iPod than about her deceased roommate. Asked about it repeatedly. Seemed focused on the wrong things, the kinds of things that make detectives take notes. The relationship between Nichole and Anita had deteriorated badly in the months before the murder. They'd been friends in 8th grade, became inseparable in college, moved into the dorms together, then into an apartment. But once Nichole quit school and started working late shifts, they drifted, stopped communicating. The friendship soured into something else, something tense. So tense that Anita asked her father to install a lock on her bedroom door. Not a normal request between roommates. A sign of fear, of discomfort, of not feeling safe in her own home. Gordon installed the lock. Never asked too many questions. Teenagers have drama. He assumed it would pass. It didn't. It ended with his daughter stabbed to death in the apartment she shared with the girl who'd once been her closest friend. Investigators looked at other suspects, interviewed several people, but none had the access Nichole had. None had keys to the apartment. None could place themselves in the timeline the way the evidence suggested. And crucially, there was DNA on the murder weapon, but it was contaminated. A mixture from at least 3 people. Impossible to isolate, impossible to link definitively to anyone. Without solid physical evidence connecting a suspect to the knife, prosecutors felt they couldn't move forward. The case went cold, filed away. Years passed. Anita's family lived with unanswered questions. Gordon visited a grave without closure, and Nichole Rice moved on with her life. Got a job at a credit union, got married, had a daughter, became someone who worked from home on Saturdays processing dealer loans, someone normal, someone who blended in, someone carrying a secret that only surfaced when she drank too much. In 2019, the case was reopened. A new team of detectives was assigned. They started from the beginning, re-interviewed everyone, including Nichole. She sat across from them calm, composed, talking about her daughter, her job, her frustration with slow computer systems and working from home in pajamas. The detectives were friendly, casual, asked about her relationship with Anita. Nichole described how they'd been close in high school, inseparable in college, then drifted apart as their schedules conflicted. Said she regretted not talking to Anita more, wished she'd asked more questions, claimed she'd changed since the murder, that it had flipped her life upside down, given her terrible anxiety about losing people, made her reach out more to friends and family. It sounded genuine, vulnerable, believable, except for one problem. Multiple people had heard Nichole confess to killing Anita, and those confessions contained details that only the killer would know. The first witness was William May, U.S. Army veteran, had dated Nichole briefly in 2008, remembered a night at a party. Nichole was drunk, belligerently drunk. People were talking about Anita's murder, asking questions, speculating, and Nichole, in the middle of it all, said it. I did it. Just like that. Blunt, direct, unapologetic. William tried to get her to repeat it when she was sober. She refused, shut down, never acknowledged saying it. He thought she was too crazy, ended the relationship, moved on. But he remembered, and when detectives came asking 15 years later, he told them exactly what he'd heard. Another friend came forward, a woman who'd been Nichole's roommate for a few months. She described Nichole as controlling, volatile, someone who drank heavily and made disturbing comments when intoxicated. At parties, in the apartment, always about Anita, always with anger. She said Nichole made comments about an alarm clock going off, about being sick and tired of it, about stabbing someone. When confronted sober, Nichole would deny it, get angry, threaten, The roommate said Nichole once lunged at her during an argument, and in that moment, the roommate told her, "You're not going to do to me what you did before. I'll go to the cops. I'll record you next time." The threats escalated. The roommate moved out, never spoke to Nichole again, but she remembered. And when detectives asked, she told them everything. But the most damning testimony came from someone Nichole trusted, someone family, her aunt, Brenda Glenn. Brenda described multiple conversations with Nichole in the weeks and months after Anita's murder. Conversations where Nichole revealed details that had never been made public, details only the killer would know. She told Brenda that someone crawled through her window, waited in her bedroom, attacked Anita when she got out of the shower. She described a large footprint on the ground outside the window, described the knife left in the apartment. These details matched the crime scene exactly, but Brenda revealed something even more specific. Nichole told her about a bowl of water in the bathroom sink, where the person responsible washed the knife. That bowl of water was real. Officers had documented it, but the information was never released to the public. For Nichole to describe it meant one of two things. She knew who killed Anita, or she was the one who did it. Brenda also revealed timeline information that placed Nichole at the scene during the murder. She said Nichole told her that after leaving the club in Russo Saturday night, she went back to Minot to get clothes, showed up at her parents' house at 8:30 Sunday morning. Her father commented it was unusual for her to be up and dressed that early. That timeline mattered, because forensic evidence suggested Anita was murdered around 4:48 a.m. Sunday morning, the window between Nichole leaving the club and arriving at her parents' house. 8 hours, unaccounted for, exactly enough time to drive to Minot, enter the apartment, kill Anita, stage the scene, clean up, and drive back. Nichole had told her aunt the truth, admitted going back to the apartment, admitted the timeline, and Brenda, sitting across from detectives years later, told them everything she remembered, everything Nichole had confessed. With these statements in hand, investigators obtained an arrest warrant. They didn't go to Nichole's home, didn't call her in for questioning, didn't give her any warning that might allow her to prepare or flee. They went to her workplace, North Star Community Credit Union, walked through the glass doors, asked for Nichole Rice. She came out from her desk, calm, professional, wearing work clothes, carrying the demeanor of someone who processes loans and answers emails, someone normal, someone who had no idea her 15-year secret was about to become public. The detective identified himself, told her they had an arrest warrant for murder. Nichole's response was immediate. "Can I call my lawyer?" The detective said no, not right now, but she'd have the opportunity. Right now, they were placing her under arrest. She asked if she could stand up. They told her yes, asked where her coat was. She couldn't remember if she wore one. They handcuffed her, removed her watch, asked if she needed anything from her desk. She said no, and then they walked her through the office, past co-workers who watched in silence, past the cubicles in the break room and the front desk, out the door, into the parking lot, into a police car, while everyone she worked with stood frozen, trying to process what they'd just witnessed. Nichole Rice was charged with felony murder. The case went to trial in March 2025. Prosecutors built their case on witness testimony, the confessions Nichole made when drunk, the timeline that placed her at the scene, the details she knew that only the killer would know. But there was no DNA evidence linking her directly to the crime. The contaminated knife couldn't definitively connect to her. The cut window screen suggested staging, but couldn't prove who staged it. And Nichole's defense attorneys were skilled. They argued that drunk confessions weren't reliable, that witnesses remembered differently over 15 years, that Nichole's knowledge of crime scene details could have come from conversations with police or friends. They pointed to other potential suspects, created reasonable doubt, made the jury question whether the state had proven its case beyond that impossible standard. After days of testimony and hours of deliberation, the jury returned. The courtroom was packed. Anita's family sat on one side, waiting, hoping, praying for justice after 15 years. Nichole sat on the other, surrounded by her family, her attorneys, her supporters. The verdict was read, not guilty. Nichole Rice was cleared of all charges. The courtroom erupted. Nichole's family screamed, celebrated, hugged each other with vocal cords straining. Anita's family sat in devastated silence, then walked out. Couldn't stay in the room where justice had just failed their daughter. Failed the girl who died at 18, who never got to finish college, never got married, never had children, never got to live the life Nichole had built in the 15 years since the murder. Nichole walks free today, works, raises her daughter, lives her life. The confessions she made to friends don't matter in a courtroom without physical evidence to support them. The timeline that placed her at the scene doesn't matter without DNA to confirm it. The bowl of water she described to her aunt doesn't matter when defense attorneys create alternative explanations. And the jury, faced with contaminated evidence and 15-year-old memories, couldn't convict beyond reasonable doubt. They did their job. They followed the law. But Anita's family goes home without answers, without closure, without the justice they waited 15 years to see. There's something particularly cruel about workplace arrests for old crimes, about watching someone be taken away in handcuffs from a place where they seemed normal, where they processed loans and complained about technology and blended into the background of everyday professional life, where nothing about their behavior suggested violence or guilt, or secrets carried for 15 years. It forces uncomfortable questions. How well do we know the people around us? The coworker who processes mortgages, the manager who approves vacation time, the colleague who brings donuts on Fridays. Are they just people doing jobs? Or are some of them carrying weight we can't see? Memories they won't share sober, confessions they make when drunk, crimes they committed years ago that technology and investigation finally caught up to. Most people are exactly who they appear to be, but some people wear masks, maintain normalcy as survival, and you never know which is which until detectives walk through the door and the mask comes off. Nichole Rice spent 15 years being normal, working, raising a daughter, complaining about iPads and computer systems, and then she spent days in trial being exposed. Every drunken confession replayed, every timeline inconsistency examined, every detail she knew about Anita's murder dissected by prosecutors trying to prove what witnesses said she admitted. The jury heard it all. The confessions to William May, the threats to her former roommate, the specific details she told her Aunt Brenda, the 8-hour window she couldn't account for, the bowl of water in the bathroom sink, the iPod she cared about more than her dead roommate. All of it laid out, clear, documented, testified to under oath, and still the jury said not guilty. Because confessions made when drunk aren't enough. Because witness memories fade over 15 years. Because contaminated DNA can't prove who held the knife. Because reasonable doubt is a high standard, and the prosecution couldn't meet it. Anita Knutson's sister posted on Facebook after the verdict, described standing in the courtroom, hearing not guilty, watching Nichole's family scream so loud their vocal cords strained. She said the room felt small, like it was getting smaller by the second. She ran to the bathroom, counted 4, 3, 2, 1 over and over until she could breathe. She said she'd spent the last week reliving the hardest parts of 18 years, and she'd learned that a not guilty verdict doesn't mean innocence, that her conscience was clear, that she saw only crocodile tears from the other side. The heartbreak in those words is palpable, the injustice crushing. A family that waited 18 years for justice, watched their sister's roommate get arrested at work, thought finally someone would be held accountable, and instead walked out of a courtroom where the person they believe killed Anita celebrated like they'd won a championship. The question that haunts this case isn't whether the jury got it right. They followed the law. They applied reasonable doubt. They did their job. The question is whether Nichole Rice killed Anita Knutson, and the only person who knows that answer for sure is Nichole. She can never be tried again. Double jeopardy protects her forever. She could confess tomorrow, could give an interview and admit everything, and nothing would change. She'd remain free, because the justice system had its chance, and the evidence, however compelling to investigators, wasn't enough for a jury. So Anita's family lives without closure, without answers, with only the knowledge that the person they believe killed their daughter is out there, working, living, raising a child, while Anita remains frozen at 18, forever young, forever dead, forever without justice. If this case made you question how many secrets hide behind professional smiles, hit that like button and subscribe to Forbidden Visions. Because here, we don't just tell you what happened. We show you how 15 years isn't enough time to erase what you told your friends when you were drunk, how workplace arrests expose lives built on buried secrets, how confessions made at parties become evidence in cold cases, how juries struggle with reasonable doubt when physical evidence is contaminated, and how sometimes the person sitting at the next desk is carrying weight you can't see, until detectives walk in, until handcuffs click, until everyone watches them taken away, and wonders how they never noticed. The secret was there all along, hidden behind loan applications and complaints about technology, waiting for someone to dig deep enough to connect the pieces, to walk into a credit union on a Tuesday morning and change everything. Sleep well, and remember, the confession you made 15 years ago when you were drunk isn't forgotten. Your friends remember, your family remembers, and someday detectives might come asking about it at your workplace, in front of everyone, when you least expect it.